people as an organ bank for sale.
暴政可以杀人，却无法消灭真相；权力可以掩盖一时，却掩盖不了20多年如山的铁证。每一封录音都是无法抹去的口供，每一个证人都是暴政灭绝罪的见证。
Kill, but it cannot destroy the truth. Power can cover up for a time, but it cannot conceal the overwhelming evidence accumulated over 2 decades. Every recording is an indelible confession. Every witness is a testament to tyranny. And every name is already recorded in history. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. The CCP is a state-sponsored terrorist organization, a devil that plagues humanity. And everyone present today is a witness to the exposing of this devil. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wang. It's such an important but difficult topic. We still have many more distinguished speakers and insightful discussion ahead. So we won't have the break today, but if you need some refreshment, feel free to step out quietly. In the foyer, there's a coffee and water. As we move toward the final part of today's program, we will broaden our perspective to the strategic future of the region. So our next panel is titled Perspectives on the U.S.-Taiwan-China Relations, CCP Internal Fragility and Indo-Pacific Strategic Outlook. So please welcome our moderator, Ming Chang Jiang Ming-Xin, the president of Hello Taiwan. So I should say, hello, Chang. Welcome.
Before we bring our moderators onto the stage, I was briefly make an introduction. I'm so fortunate and honored to have four distinguished panelists with us tonight. So without further ado, let me introduce them and bring them onto the stage. First, I'd like to introduce Professor Tsung-Chi Yu 老师。明志老师 is a long-time professor at the Taiwan University. He taught many years in political science, and he's a former expert in Taiwan, China politics, as well as the Chinese Communist Party, and the cross-strait relations. Throughout his distinguished academic career, he has provided insight analysis on Beijing's political system, Taiwan's national security, and the evolving strategic landscape of the Indo-Pacific. His scholarship and public commentary has made him one of the Taiwan's most respected voices on democracy, regional stability, and Taiwan's future. And personally, I watch his programming all the time. I get a lot of inspiration from many of his YouTube programs. And I encourage everyone to go on and watch. And it's both in Mandarin and also in English. Our next speaker is Gordon Chang. Gordon is the international renowned author and columnist, and also as a commentator specialized in China, U.S. relationship, and global security. He is also the bestseller author of The Coming Collapse of China. I read it twice, and after this, I probably read it the third time. And he's a frequent contributor to a major media outlets, frequent speaker on many of these primetime news programmings. His work has helped shape public understanding of the strategic challenges posed by Chinese Communist Party, and that the importance of defending democracy value in the Indo-Pacific. Our third speaker is I don't know, the General David Stoll is online. Can we bring him on the screen? Oh, there you go. How are you doing, General? General David Stilwell is the former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for the East Asian and Pacific Affairs and a retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General. During more than 3 decades of military and diplomatic service, he served in key leadership roles throughout the Indo-Pacific, including the defense attaché in Beijing and senior advisor on Asia to chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. At the State Department, he plays a leading role in strengthening U.S. partnership across the region and advancing the free and open Indo-Pacific, including deeper cooperation with Taiwan. Thank you, General. And our last speaker is Deputy Secretary General Chu-Cheng Ming. Deputy Secretary General is a senior Taiwan government official with extensive experience in national security, international affairs, and strategic policy. Throughout his public life, public service, he has worked to strengthen Taiwan's international partnership, advance democratic cooperation, promoting peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. His expertise offers valuable insight into Taiwan's foreign policy priorities, national security challenges, and important collaboration among democratic nations. So let's give them a round of applause. Well, today we're going to focus on the prospect of U.S., Taiwan, and China relations. That often we are asked a question, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before. If China is going to invade Taiwan, and we heard the years tossing around like 2027, but perhaps 2028. But I think in today's panel, we're going to focus from a different angle. We're going to take a look at the question of that how does the Chinese Communist Party make strategic decisions regarding issues like this? I mean, I think it's important for us to not to misunderstand how the internal policy making of Chinese Communist Party. Because in doing so, we might misunderstood that some of the policy that might impact that global stability could be conflict or war, or even lead to potential of making bad plan to preserve peace. 如果我们不理解共产党, we will not have a lasting peace. So today we probably going to ask our panelists to do a deep dive to analyze a question like this. But before that, I think I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give us their view on today's panel, and so we can actually understand some of their expertise regarding to U.S.-Taiwan policies. And we're going to go down by alphabetical border. Let's start with that, Gordon Chang, and let him share some of our perspectives.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I will not hold you in suspense. This is an important and a great time to sell arms to Taiwan. And what's the reason? China, I believe, is bluffing. Xi Jinping in May, at the summit with President Trump, told the American leader that Taiwan was the most important issue in U.S.-China relations, and then the Chinese leader said this. He threatened war with the U.S. unless we back down.
At the same time, the Chinese embassy in the U.S. said Taiwan was one of the 4 red lines in U.S.-China relations, and it said the Chinese position must not be challenged. Well, China doesn't have any red lines, and it has no principles. China, I believe, was just trying to intimidate us. We have known that throughout the history of the People's Republic, that the foreign policies of China have been tightly bound to intrigue in Beijing itself. So those policies have changed accordingly. And right now, we know that Xi Jinping has to negotiate. That with him right now, everything is negotiable, even the issue of Taiwan. How do we know this? Well, right now, the Chinese military is not prepared to invade the main island of Taiwan. That's a complex land, air, sea operation. And right now, because of Xi Jinping's relentless purges, which have been going on for more than a decade, that the top of the Chinese military has been decimated. So, for instance, the Communist Party's Central Military Commission, which controls the Chinese military, now has 5 vacancies. There are 7 seats. There's only 2 people remaining. There's Xi Jinping himself, who's not a military officer. And there is one general, but that general is a political commissar. There are no operational officers at the top of the People's Liberation Army. We also know that in general, in order for China to invade the main island of Taiwan, that Xi Jinping would have to give some general or admiral almost complete control over the Chinese military. And that is not something that Xi Jinping is willing to do, even in the best of times. And the reason? Because that flag officer, with almost complete control of the Chinese military, would himself become the most powerful figure in China. And in a time of political turmoil at the PLA, that is not something that Xi Jinping can do. We also know something else. China's military doesn't want to fight. We know this from various factors, but one of them is that Xi Jinping tells us, because he keeps on telling his generals and admirals, quote, dare to fight, which means they don't want to. Now, at this moment, we saw President Trump in Beijing said that Taiwan was a very good bargaining chip. Well, no, it's not. Taiwan is not a bargaining chip. It is a free society. It is a democracy that is in good standing with the rest of the world. And it's critical to American security. It's critical to American security for so many reasons. There's the Silicon Shield. By the way, China, one company in China, in Taiwan, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, makes 92% of the world's most sophisticated semiconductors. And by the way, the remaining 8%, they're made in South Korea, which, by the way, is going communist right now. So, yeah, Taiwan's really important. But it goes beyond that. After the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan, we know that Taiwan has become a critical test of American credibility and resolve. Taiwan sits in the middle of our Western defense perimeter, which we have held for more than 200 years. This Western defense perimeter, Taiwan sits at the center, where the East China Sea and the South China Sea meet. Taiwan protects 2 American treaty allies, Japan and the Philippines. And most important of all, we know that Taiwan, a free society, we cannot allow a totalitarian Beijing, which is on a rampage against democracies, we cannot allow it to take over any free society, especially one as important as Taiwan. Taiwan provides a critical defense to the United States from China's malicious information war. People in Taiwan, they believe that they're Taiwanese. They don't believe they're Chinese. And we know this from self-identification surveys. But the people in China believe the people in Taiwan are Chinese because of indoctrination over a course of decades. And that means Taiwan challenges the Communist Party's core narrative. The core narrative of the Chinese Party is that the Chinese people are not ready to defend themselves, and they're not ready to govern themselves, that they need the Communist Party. Well, Taiwan undermines that entirely. So this is the best time to sell arms to Taiwan. The United States approved $11.1 billion arms package in December, the biggest ever, but there's a $14 billion package that is pending, and I hope President Trump approves it. This benign period is not going to last. Xi Jinping is in trouble at home. We know that he has a closing window of opportunity to achieve his goal of annexing Taiwan, and that means we only have a small amount of time in order to do this, and we must. We can stop China. We can stop China not only from trying to take over Taiwan, but the rest of East Asia. Now we can do it cost-free. In a year or two from now, the costs might be horrendous. Now is the time to sell arms to Taiwan. Thank you.
We're going to take a brief pause because we have an honored guest with us right now. Congressman Derek Train. Congressman Derek Train represents California. I don't know which district, but Congressman is the fellow of the vet from Army, and I'd like to ask him to say a few words. Let's welcome Congressman.
Thank you. This works? Okay, that's good. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Washington, D.C. As Ming said, I am Representative Derek Tran, and I proudly serve Orange and L.A. counties in California's 45th Congressional District. Thank you so much for inviting me to make some remarks. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. As a member of the Congressional Taiwan Caucus, I am committed to reinforcing our partnership with Taiwan and furthering our shared goals in the region. My parents came to the United States after the fall of Saigon. They were inspired by the American dream of what can exist beyond communism and the promise of the democracy in this great country. You know what? Taiwan represents the same. Taiwan is a reminder that the alternative to China's rule exists just across their shores. It promotes democracy, human rights, and freedom of expression in the face of CCP bullying and aggression. We must stand with Taiwan. Together we can show the world that democracy is not just only resilient, but a force for positive change. That is why I support ending double taxation on Taiwanese investments and oppose the Trump administration's recent move to pause arms sales to Taiwan. Taiwan's economic security and defensive strength is essential for U.S. national security, both because of its location in the Indo-Pacific and the cutting-edge technology which makes for our great defense systems. We cannot allow Taiwan to be used as a bargaining chip with China, and I look forward to working together for our shared security interests between the U.S. and Taiwan. Thank you so much for welcoming me here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for Congressman. If you don't mind, would you would I ask you to have a quick photo with our...
Oh, sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Trent. Without further ado, let's continue with our program. I'd like to introduce our second panelist, Professor Ming Ji-Zeng. Again, I have mentioned I have a huge admiration of Professor Ming's program, and I encourage everybody also to watch it. Professor?
Thank you, President Zhang, for the kind introduction. My name is Chu-Cheng Ming. I'm from Taiwan. Currently, I'm a professor emeritus of the Political Science Department, National Taiwan University. I've been doing research and teaching courses in National Taiwan University in fields like PRC's foreign policy and PRC's domestic politics and cross-strait relations, American foreign policy, and international relations. So today, the topic I'm going to present to you, Okay, next page, please. So the topic I'm going to share with you is Xi Jinping. Well, there's a page missing, but anyway, Xi Jinping's strategic ambition and his weaknesses. So that's the topic I'm going to present and the things I'm going to share with you. So if you look at or if you watch the news about China, whether domestically or it's about this foreign policy, it may be very confusing because you see things like, next page. You see things like they're adopting what we call a wolf warrior diplomacy. It got itself into skirmishes and conflicts with countries like Japan, the Philippines, and over things like over questions like East Asia and East China Sea and South China Sea. And with Taiwan, it tries to intimidate Taiwan nearly every day. They fly jet fighters, bombers, and reconnaissance planes over Taiwan, and they deploy their ships and coastal guard ships to surround Taiwan. And sometimes they even they even have military drills over Taiwan, and they try to intimidate Taiwan almost nearly every day. And domestically, next page. With the United States, it got into diplomatic confrontation. It got into tariff war, technological war, arms races, confrontation, military drills, and so on and so forth. So the list is so long, I have to stop here. Next page, please. And domestically, they try to crack down on the privately owned businesses. They promote state-owned enterprises, and they repossessing Hong Kong, and then they conduct a very strict quarantine policy during the COVID-19 period. Next page. So what does Xi Jinping want to do over all these complexing scenarios and news and everything? Does he really have a secret agenda? In my opinion, yes, he does. Next page. So what are the sources of his ambition, in addition to his personal ambition? First, there's an ideological background to it. Let me make the story short. Well, he's a child of the Cultural Revolution period, and he's unfortunately a victim of the brainwashing operation, the brainwashing operation of Mao's period, and somehow he still sticks to that kind of idea, and that can go back to Marx, when Marx talked about the emancipation of humankind or emancipation of mankind, and Xi Jinping somehow still believes in that. Next. And the second source of his personal ambition is that competition for global hegemony against the United States. And that's some call it the logic of great power rivalry. That's only one part of it. In the morning, there's a gentleman who said it very clearly. It's another side of Leninism instead of communism. And in the end, I think ultimately he wants to establish something called Pax Seneca, or at least he tried to establish something like a quasi-tributary system like China had for centuries. Next. So personally, he wants to be a great emperor in the history of China, like any great emperor in the past. He wants to surpass the status of both Deng Xiaoping and Mao Zedong, and he wants to be someone even bigger than these two figures. Next. So in reality, in many countries around the world, especially in the United States, as I noticed, some consider China as a state-run or state-managed capitalism. I think it's totally wrong. It is a communist country or a communist state. Next page. It is a communist state. Oh, I'm sorry. Last one. It is still a communist country under the leadership of Chinese Communist Party. They call it a one-party dictatorship, but actually it's a one-person or one-man dictatorship, one-person or one-man dictatorship of Xi Jinping. And that's what it is. And next. Well, there's something that can testify to that. On March the 21st, 2023, when Xi Jinping was visiting Moscow and they finished the state dinner, Vladimir Putin walked him out of the hall. And they stopped at the doorway, and Xi Jinping turned around and said to Putin, "We're now facing a once-in-a-century change and of the international politics or international relations. Let's join hands to promote it." And Putin says, "I agree." Let me explain this once-in-a-century change. What does it mean? It means they want to overthrow the international order established by the United States and the European countries, and they want to challenge and overthrow the universal value system, and they want to overthrow or challenge the lifestyle we cherish for so long. And that, as I see it, reflects the communist mindset for more than 100 years. And Xi Jinping said, we want to do it. We want to accomplish it. Okay, next. So, like I said, China is not just another country. It is a communist country. It is not a state-owned, it's not a state-managed capitalism. It's a one-party dictatorship by the Chinese Communist Party, but actually it's a one-man or one-person dictatorship under Xi Jinping himself. Next. So, in their eyes, if that's his ambition, how can he achieve it? Well, they're facing some challenges, both externally and internally, or domestically. Externally, first is the American strategic confrontation. You could call it containment, you can call it color revolution, you can call it peaceful evolution, but anyway, in the eyes of Beijing, you just want to annihilate us. You want to terminate us. And that's something that we cannot accept. So we must fight back. Next. So their policy for that, basically is a tit-for-tat tactics for Beijing. Be them a ban on the export of rare earths, dumping, Belt and Road Initiative, and remember that what they call it, Made in China 2025 initiative. They have achieved it, basically. And that's why the dumping and the overarching the global market all over the world. And in terms of technological confrontation, they're still adopting a tit-for-tat tactic. So what they're doing is self-reliance, theft, and again, made in China 2025. Next. And in terms of military pressure from the United States, their reaction is arms race, military drills, and South China Sea reefs. Well, I'm not going to get into details of that. South China Sea reefs and things like that. And in terms of diplomatic competition, their strategy is Belt Road Initiative, their support for the Ukraine war on the Russian side, and their involvement in the Middle East war and the war against Iran. Well, we all know that for a fact. Next page. And the second part of the United States is strengthen or the building a new coalitions or alliances to fight the Beijing regime. And things like United States alliance with Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, AUKUS, NATO, EU, UK, and G7 to a certain extent, and the quadruple framework, the Five Eyes, and especially U.S.-Taiwan cooperation. Next. So the Beijing's tactics against it is, again, like I said, a tit-for-tat strategy. They exercise heavy pressure against Japan, South Korea. They try to win over Australia. They conduct a united front tactics on South Pacific Island countries. They try to divide up EU countries. And they, of course, they exercise overwhelming pressure upon Taiwan. Next. Domestically, they are facing challenges, as suggested by Gordon earlier. They're in some kind of dilemma, which holds them back from attacking Taiwan. And here are some of the problems. First is a sharp decline in economy, and then leads to social upheavals or social riots all over China. And next. And then eventually that leads to political problem or political challenges. The first one is corruption, as we all know it. A second is factional struggles and struggle for succession. Factional struggle may be aiming at obtaining some kind of power, some share of the power, whatever you call it. But struggle for succession is Xi Jinping is getting old, and his health is declining. Although he's thinking of organ transplant for living to 150 years, something like that. But let me ask you one thing. If you can transplant organs all over your body, eventually, can you transplant a new brain? What would that lead you to? A new Xi Jinping, or Zhang Jinping, or Li Jinping, or whoever that is? That's the ultimate question for organ transplant. Okay, next page. So, what we're looking at, what we see now is a serious challenge to Xi Jinping's position or to his status. They are contemplating on early retirement for Xi Jinping, a purge, or even assassination. He knows it. So he has his own countermeasures, like anti-graft campaign, serial purges, and under-table arrangement, and so on and so forth. The next page. So, what does it leave Taiwan? If Taiwan is a part of his grand plan or his grand strategy against the United States, or aiming at the global hegemony eventually, so Taiwan will be the first step. If he can conquer Taiwan, or if he can take over Taiwan in whichever ways, then that'd be a very victorious first step for him. That will secure his power position in the 21st Congress to be held in 2027. Next. But he knows it's difficult. It's a difficult task for him to take over Taiwan because, as Gordon just mentioned, Taiwan has high-end chips. Taiwan has a very strong semiconductor industry. Taiwan's strategic position in the first island chain, and Taiwan's a very important democratic partner around the world. So Taiwan is not an easy target. Next. And externally, countries like the United States, Japan, and European powers would oppose should Beijing decide to invade Taiwan militarily. And besides, he has to face economic problems, social problems, or military problems, and political problems should he try to invade Taiwan. There's a saying that 打台海不如打中南海. It's easier to attack Beijing or to launch a coup d'etat against Xi Jinping than attacking Taiwan. That's what it says, literally. So he knows that there will be a problem, a serious problem, should he decide to attack Taiwan, although he dreams about it, perhaps every night. So he knows it, and he will be very cautious about launching a military operation, all-out military operation against Taiwan. So what would be the alternative to that? Next. So what he can do is to isolate Taiwan, make Taiwan an easier target to deal with. And to do that, he has to divide up Taiwan and the United States. So that's to say, he has to drive a wedge between the United States and Taiwan. That's why in so many years we've seen things like USA skepticism or Taiwan skepticism. So what they're doing is they launch an all-out cognitive war against Taiwan. And then they try to penetrate and try to infiltrate Taiwan, and they try to adopt what we call the united front tactics against Taiwan. And it is working. It is working. Just look at the news in Taiwan, or look at the public polls in Taiwan. You know Taiwan is divided. And this division, to a large extent, was caused by Beijing, by their cognitive warfare against Taiwan. It's beginning to take toll in Taiwan. And that's why people like myself and General Yu and Professor Tsung and what's your name? Henry Wu, yes, my good friend. That's why we do TV shows from time to time. We are fighting the cognitive warfare on our own part. And that's a way to echo earlier today, they talk about taking an offensive way to deal with the cognitive warfare. That's what we're doing. We're not doing a defensive warfare. We're not doing a defensive thing. We're actually doing an offensive warfare against them. Well, when I said that the cognitive warfare is taking tolls in Taiwan, look at what happened in Taiwan's Congress or the Taiwan's Parliament. The arms sales case in Taiwan has been stalled for so many times, actually for so many years. This is not the first time that it's happening in our legislative yuan or in our Congress. Actually, it's been going on like this for some time. But this time it's important because it involves things like drone or the build-up of the drone industry in Taiwan and the strengthening of Taiwan's self-defense capabilities and things like that. So that's the thing that causes the sense of urgency in Taiwanese public. Next page. So externally, we said if Xi Jinping tries to launch an all-out war against Taiwan, he'll be facing external whatever. So anyway, it's difficult for him. So what I'm saying is, well, yeah, he does. Xi Jinping does have his ambitions, but he's also facing some kind of serious challenges and weakness domestically and also externally. So the battlefield is not probably in Taiwan Strait. It's inside Taiwan. To be precise, perhaps it's inside Taiwan's legislative yuan or Taiwan's parliament. And that's our front line. And cognitive warfare is just another way to launch a war against Taiwan. So what I'm saying is the war is going on. It's not coming. It has come already. We are fighting the war. We are fighting a psychological warfare before the real military war takes place. So next page. So my conclusion is very simple. Yes, he's very ambitious. And he's preparing a war against Taiwan and the United States. But personally, he believes in unrestricted warfare, which means he doesn't really have to resort to military forces to fight the war and to win the war. A cognitive warfare plus other efforts may help him achieve the ultimate goal. So he's hoping for a window of opportunity. Some suggested 2027, some suggested 2028. But as I see it, if myself as Xi Jinping, I will be attending the 21st Party Congress, and I'm hoping to get another term, another 5 years in the 21st century. Then I have to come up with some kind of achievement or accomplishment for me to get this new term. But I'm now facing trouble in economy. I'm facing trouble in I'm facing some social unrest. I'm facing some political challenges. So what can I do? The least I can do is to draw Taiwan a little bit closer to me. And that's my achievement. That's something I can tell my comrades, give me another 5 years. I can do more than this. Believe me. And that's what he wants, and that's what he's working on. So he's contemplating on a possible window of opportunity, and which is there will be elections in Taiwan. Actually, we have 2 big elections coming up. And he's waiting for the election in the United States, 2028. And in between, he's contemplating, or he thinks he's looking at his window of opportunity. If there are riots or social upheavals following the elections, either in Taiwan or in the United States, then that would be his chance. Next. So, if we put all these together, what really bothers me is that his miscalculation, the miscalculation on the part of Xi Jinping. He miscalculates the situation, he misjudges the situation, and he makes premature moves. And that really bothers us. Another thing that bothers us is that he has an alternative. He could deceive Trump. He can trick Trump into signing the 4th communique, in addition to the previous 3 ones. So that's what bothers us. Oh, by the way, that's why I do TV shows, not only in Mandarin, but also in English. 5-second commercial. The title, the name of the show is Professor Ming's Strategic Insights. You can look it up in YouTube. Please subscribe and share with your friends, and do remember to click the icon bell. Okay, 5 seconds. Okay, next page. Having said all that, let me remind you, we cannot rule out the possibility of China's internal upheavals, worsening economy, rising unemployment, and possible coup d'etat against Xi Jinping, or even an overwhelming color revolution in China. So history repeatedly tells us that tyranny is bound to perish, but we must work on it. So not only we cherish our freedom, cherish our lifestyle, cherish our democracy and all the good things we believe in, and there's something that we can do. We can do something to fasten this process, the process of the perish of a tyranny, which is Communist China. Well, thank you for your attention. I think I just concluded in time. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor Ming. And a little testimonial. I do watch Professor Ming's program, and it's very informative. And most importantly, they're not repetitious. So every programming is a new, refreshing perspective of the next round, what the policies that we will be dealing with. Next, I'd like to introduce a man with an impeccable and career with in the military. So let's hear from General Stilwell.
Thank you for that. I can be fairly brief. We've looked at the problem. We understand the PRC strategy. We understand what Taiwan's capabilities are, but we haven't really looked at the U.S. side. what policy arrangements or corrections should we be making going forward? And I'll just summarize our shortcoming is, after 1991 and the fall of communism, we all flexed back to the unipolar moment, the end of history, and rightfully focused more on what a peaceful world will look like, all the time ignoring the threat coming from Russia to a degree, but mostly from the People's Republic of China. And the one word I want us all to think about better is how Xi Jinping and the Communist Party define the word war. I teach, high school or college students on this, and I ask them, define war, and they say it is an extension of politics by other means, a very Clausewitzian definition. And that's all great, but that is not how Xi Jinping sees war. He sees it as any effort, all efforts taken to bend his primary adversary, that would be us or Taiwan, how you bend the primary adversary to your will. It doesn't necessarily have to be kinetic. And as Gordon Chang said, that's not their primary thrust. It's in other areas. And so I commend to all of you a book on this subject called Political Warfare by Kerry Gershanek. And the subtitle is important. It is China's Strategy to Win Without Fighting. I say all that because as the U.S. girds up for the return of history, the second Cold War, we are entirely too focused on the Department of War, Department of Defense. That's not where CCP is putting their effort. They're putting their effort against those things, those areas where we're weak. We're weak in the information space. Look at TikTok. And we're weak in the economic space. We don't have control over our companies. We can't tell our companies what to do. They do what they want. And too many of them are more eager to make money by dealing with the PRC than they are to defend national interests. And so we're going to have to figure out how to manage that. So there are three agencies I think should be focused on. First off, State Department, diplomacy. The diplomats need to engage better, and we're doing a good job, but we need to engage better with positive contributors to national and regional security, and that would be Japan, who's been way out ahead. The Prime Minister is doing great work, and Taiwan. And the cooperation between Japan and Taiwan and the U.S. and the Philippines, all these things send a very important deterrent message to the PRC, but it requires active diplomacy to let these things happen. They are not going to happen by themselves. So as we look at how the U.S. is going to respond to this policy-wise, we on the U.S. side, and I'm doing what I can from my low perch to help this out, need to help State Department and Defense work closer together. Those are two foreign policy-focused organizations that could do, if with further cooperation, more cooperation, could do some really good work, like the Philippines are doing, by the way. And just because the Department of War has the word war in it, as I said earlier, the PRC considers the war more broadly than we do. We should look at what the Philippines are doing in information warfare. The program they called Assertive Transparency, where they showed videos yesterday of a Chinese Coast Guard boat, a big one, physically beating Philippine sailors in Philippine waters. We need to think better about information warfare, how to expose the government in Beijing for its lack of legitimacy and credibility when it walks away from the Hong Kong agreement. We should have been hammering that as showing that the PRC is not a organization that you want to bargain with, because they won't follow through on anything. So the diplomats are very important in this. The second one is the Department of Defense needs to expand its definition of warfare and then think in terms of how it can support an American strategy versus being supported by all other agencies, as has been the case for far too long. So the Department of War needs to be able to think more broadly in terms of non-kinetic contributions to the idea of national security. And then finally, Treasury and Commerce. They do what they can, but until we can get Wall Street and others to think about decoupling or disentangling from the PRC economy, they are going to continue to support and make deals with the PRC that are undermining our economic welfare, our economic security. We don't have an information agency like we used to during the Cold War. So my final thought on this is at some point we're going to have to take information warfare more seriously, because that is where we're going to win. We heard cognitive warfare, information warfare, all these things are getting shortchanged. So we had a U.S. information agency up through about 1995. We tore that down and we moved it back into State Department. I do think we need to get serious about information warfare because the PRC is serious. And it's a weakness they have. They are not putting up military strength against our military strength because they know they can't compete. But we're not competing in the information space, and therefore they're taking advantage of us through simple things like TikTok and 100 other areas I can tell you about. And I'll get off stage with this idea. The U.S. believes strongly in sharing, getting everybody to participate in this experiment. After World War II, we established multilateral organizations like the United Nations. But the United Nations has been completely subverted by the PRC. We all need to join hands and eliminate the PRC control and subversion of an organization like the UN, which violates the charter in preventing Taiwan from participating in a number of activities that we all agree they should. And the PRC is not going to let this go easily. So again, some of the outcomes of this is going to be not military conflict, but political, diplomatic, information and economic things we can do to slow the Chinese juggernaut. We don't have to fix it all right now. We just need to start. In Korean, they say, "Shijaki panida." I love that phrase. Starting is half. And so this conference, I think, is going a long way toward fixing the problem. Thanks for letting me participate. Out.
Well, thank you so much, General Stilwell, for that insightful perspective from the U.S. side. The last but not least, we have someone with distinguished career as a senior government official with Taiwan, and I'd like to share his perspectives.
Thank you. Before my presentation, I would like to extend my gratitude to the organizer, Hello Taiwan, and the Consilium Institute for inviting me to participate in this great event. The topic I'm going to present today is China's anaconda strategy is choking Taiwan. Next slide. The 7 talking points in my presentation. I'll go through all the 7 points in the following slides. Next. President Lai, interviewed by the New York Times, warns that China's aggression is increasing. He also warns that China's overall military capability to invade Taiwan will get ready by 2027. And this is not a scaremongering at all, as evidenced by the National Security Advisor, Joseph Wu of Taiwan, publicly stated that China's unprecedented mobilization of more than 110 warship vessels surrounded Taiwan. And China has even conducted the maritime exercise under the pretext of countering the delimitation agreement signed between Philippines and Japan. And during the exercise, they conducted this called a civilian maritime coercion, logistic disruption, area denial, and onboard inspection, and even using their radar to detecting or transition ship in this neighborhood. This, of course, raising the regional tension escalation and instability. In addition to that, China also showcased their nuclear strike capability last week by launching the Mach warhead ballistic missile into the Oceania sea room close to the Kiribati and Vanuatu. And the intent is obvious to try to deter any international intervention by the United States and its ally. So we can reach a brief conclusion here. China's aggression is not only a threat to Taiwan, but also to Philippines, Japan, and the whole Indo-Pacific. Next. Let's zoom out a little bit to take pictures of the exercise conducted by China from 2022 up to now. As we can see, the graphs on the left, China is almost complete its blockade to surround Taiwan. As we can see, the circle around Taiwan remind us that China's traditional military tactics to use the so-called circular point to destroy reinforcements or whole of the reinforcements to attack Taiwan. And these tactics even go further, evolve as revealed in the propaganda posters shown above, released by the Eastern Theater Command during the 2025 Justice Mission. These four scenarios, the first one is the aerial justice. That means China will use a missile saturation attack to wipe out all C4ISR to blind and deafen Taiwan. Second scenario that shows the shield justice. That means they use the A2AD and to deter other countries come to Taiwan's aid in case of a war. The third one is the hammer justice. I believe this they simply copied United States midnight hammer operation to strike Iran in order to create or introduce fears of decapitation among the major opponents on Taiwan. The last one is the most complicated strategies, the modern Trojan war horse. And this actually is China tried using external military pressure to increase internal squeeze that can reach, so-called the strong fortress can reach from within and without. The ultimate goal is to win the war without bloodshedding. And this kind of slow and surely strategy, next, perfectly fit into the China's anaconda strategy. They are four chronological periods, which includes dismantling the boundary, tighten the coil, and constrict phase. The last one is a fixation point. And general belief from the exercise conducted by China, now China seems moving from phase 3, the constriction phase, to the final exhibition phase toward Taiwan. So it is a very critical moment. Next, Taiwan come up with so-called 8-step tenacity strategies. Among all these 8 steps, I believe the 8-1 seeking international cooperation or assistance should be the top priority among them. Next. For example, Taiwan need to seek the international assistance or cooperation to define China's use any excuse to conduct their quarantine or blockade campaign against Taiwan as illegal. A correct name is very important for democratic country. For example, it allowed Taiwan not only to stop China's trying to shifting its legal narrative from international flashpoints to an internal domestic law enforcement matter. It also allowed Taiwan to win global support to take concerted action to fight back, break through China's blockade. Next, in addition to correct name, Taiwan should also take two very important strategy to strengthen its overall military capability to deter China's attempts. One of them, I think, should be the build up a very strong or powerful undersea fleet in being. In order to achieve this goal, Taiwan should do its best to, of course, with the assistance from the United States, to purchase the Soryu lithium power submarine from Japan, and simultaneously also need to jointly develop or deploy the undersea drone system in order to deter China's aggression. Next, another dimension Taiwan can do is to build up the robust drone ecosystem and integrated, battlefield communication system. We discussed a lot with the different think tanks yesterday, but we do not have concrete, steps or concrete, measure to achieve this. But I would strongly suggest that probably we can start from, the integration of Taiwan into Pentagon's so-called replicator project that allow Taiwan to join production or join a venture with the United States. And in addition, Taiwan can also try seeking United States assistance to speed up the technological transfer to Taiwan to accomplish a complete aerial communication network, such as bring in or introducing the Starlinks or Star Shield to Taiwan. And this will allow Taiwan's strong system survival under the real combat environment in case of war. Next. Finally, this concludes my final point. Before I drop it up, I would like to remind every military hardware or advanced weapons are only as strong as the human being operating them. So Taiwan's national defense is making a profound teaching course correction in military education by transitioning away from the political neutral frameworks established in 2002 and restoring a very explicit anti-communist and patriotical education. I think Taiwan is trying to address the most critical vulnerability on cognitive warfare and psychological front. After all, securing First Island chain ultimately depends on a clear threat awareness and know exactly who the friend is and who the foe is the best goal or the principle Taiwan should conduct. Because by alignment of the technological resilience, we say clear ideological clarity, and that will enable Taiwan to solidify itself with a comprehensive defense posture that for the challenges in the foreseeable future. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Secretary General Tsung-Chi Yu. The earlier of our discussion, I mentioned we need a better understanding how CCP's line of thought if we're going to have a prudent policy. I think one of the earlier panel, I heard that some of the younger generation, and we got to understand how the people of China think as well. Many of the younger generation that born after Tiananmen Squares really have no clue about Tiananmen Square. I had the first-hand experiences talking with some of these younger generations. So that itself is we need to figure out into power dynamics. And Chinese Communist Party's influence is without bounds. And we also heard that they have set up police stations over the world. And even recently that there was an attack on one of Taiwan's, one of the well-known, respected Japanese journalists, Akio Yeta, that during daylight. So Chinese Communist Party is doing everything they can to influence all our decision-making around the world. So I have prepared 4 the questions, one for each of our panelists. So I'm going to go the same orders as we started from the panel. So my first question is to Gordon. Gordon, you have argued that many Western analyses that consistently overestimate the stability of the CCP. What are the biggest micro-conceptions in Washington today regarding China's political future?
Well, thank you. I think the biggest misconception is that we don't understand how the crisis in China, and there is an internal crisis right now, how that affects their external decision-making and how it accelerates, I believe, horrible events. So, for instance, we have an economy in China that they reported grew 4.3% in the second quarter, but probably grew 1% if it grew at all, maybe 0, maybe even contracted. And we don't understand how the debt crisis in China could impact that. Because no matter how fast the Chinese economy grew, it did not grow fast enough to retire the debt that they've accumulated since 2008. You have essentially in China right now, a mood of gloom and pessimism among the Chinese people. People are trying to leave the country. Many of the privileged young Chinese are moving back to the countryside. They're laying flat, and they're trying to opt out of society. And this means that the Communist Party right now is in, I think, in a state of distress. This could easily get Xi Jinping to do something. And it's not so much that he would cause problems to rally the Chinese people, because the Chinese people right now do not want war. But I think that there is a sense that Xi Jinping could very well cause some disturbance around the region. Could be Taiwan, but could be the Philippines or Japan or Vietnam. But to do something to prevent other senior Communist Party figures from challenging or even deposing him. So I worry about how we do not understand what's going on in China. And it's very hard right now because I know less about China than I did a couple of years ago because Xi Jinping has been closing society off. And it makes it very difficult to understand. But we are seeing signs that are not consistent with a stable political system. And we're seeing signs that are not consistent with a stable country. And so therefore we have to be right now prepared for anything. Whether it's a Taiwan contingency, something in the South China Sea, or something someplace else. But this Chinese system is extremely dangerous at this moment, and we need to get ourselves ready for what could occur.
Well, thank you so much for Gordon for that insight. My next question is for Professor Ming. Professor, many outside observers focus on China's growing military and economic power. But you have long argued that we should pay equal attention to CCP's internal weakness. Looking at China today in 2026, what do you think or what do you believe CCP's greatest internal vulnerabilities?
Actually, I can write a book on it. You want me to answer in 2 minutes? Yeah, I can try. Yeah. First is, if I tell you that if you know nothing about a country or a political system, and I tell you that his biggest diplomat just got purged, the Minister of Foreign Affairs got purged, Hsing Kang, and then one of his top generals got purged, the Minister of National Defense, Li Shangfu, in a matter of months. What would you think about the stability of this country or of this political system if you knew nothing about it at all? And then if I continue to tell you that their highest military commanding organ is what they call the Central Military Commission, and then originally there were 7 people there, and now 5 are gone. 5 are purged. Some of them were charged with the receiving bribery or giving bribery. Some got purged because of corruption. Some are because of disloyal to Xi Jinping. And 5 out of 7 are gone. So what would you think of this system or of this country? So doesn't it tell us something? As Gordon just mentioned, we see a lot of things which is inconsistent with our concept of a stable system. The economic growth, GDP rate, and whatever, and the social upheavals, social riots, and all kinds of what they call the retaliation against the society, namely indiscriminate attacks or killings on the streets. So what do you think about the system? So while we're looking at China as a pressure cooker, and they're adding more and more pressure to the pot, instead of relieving it or giving a vent to the pressure of the pot, and they're just increasing the pressure to it. So we have seen so many signs which lead us to believe that they're in big trouble, very, very big trouble. Although it's possible for them to go the other way, to let the pressure out by attacking Taiwan or causing problem with Japan or with the Philippines, but eventually the cooker itself is gonna explode at some point. So, well, let me ask you this. I ask a number of European experts the same question. I said, did any one of you foresee the collapse of Soviet Union? They said no. None. And I asked them, did any one of you foresee the collapse of any communist regime in Eastern Europe? They said no. They said, but they know that I said, well, I can tell that China, communist China, is watching what happened in Soviet Union, in Eastern European countries, very closely, because they're afraid that they're going to follow their suit, follow their path sometime in the future. So that's something that really worries them. But again, if I were Xi Jinping, I would do probably the opposite, to let out or to vent out some of the pressure. But instead, he's adding pressure to the pot, as I've been suggesting. So they call Xi Jinping the grand designer of China or something. But now he's got a new name. They call him he's not the Secretary General of the party, he's the Accelerator General of the party. That's what he's called. So, we don't hear that kind of name being imposed on any other political leaders in the world, but he's the only one that got the title. So that's something that we can have some expectation on. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's keep working harder, and we'll get there eventually. And of course, keep good health so that you can see it.
Well, thank you, Professor Ming. And I hope that when that pressure that reaches that breaking point, hopefully through discussion like this, we're ready for it, and so we don't have we do have some plan to deal with it. Next, I'd like to hear from someone with the distinguished government experiences that have dealt with matter like this. So I'd like to ask General Stilwell this question. From your experience at the State Department, where do you believe Washington will misunderstand Beijing?
It's a very good question. You've got a lot of expertise in the State Department who get it. A lot of times you bring in folks from outside of the system without the same experience. Look, I was very positive on the People's Republic before I went to Beijing in 2011. Most of my counterparts were the exact same. All of our lessons in school with PRC help, studied at Edgar Snow and Alice Medley and all these happy stories about how this great system was better than the national system. So we went there with great hopes. And I can name one or two who actually came back from their time in the PRC positive on the relationship and anything other than a dragon slayer. So we all go there as panda huggers. We all come back as dragon slayers. Experiencing it firsthand is very important. So I think most of the State Department career officers, foreign service officers that have been to Beijing understand that. We've mentioned this earlier, that their ability to influence us, cognitively through information warfare, that the growth is 4.3% or 8% or whatever it is, et cetera, is really well done. You got to applaud them for using information warfare as such a great tool. So I think I would think the Foreign Service needs to find its voice and be able to explain to all of us the realities of the PRC. As Gordon was saying, we can't get there anymore to see it firsthand, although everything I've heard and seen says it's not getting better, it's getting worse. There's more heavy-handed security presence, more cameras, more MSS, more arrests. But Xi Jinping is playing that well, isn't letting us see that. I guess my last suggestion on this, and it's a little off topic though, is the PRC, Xi Jinping wants to keep freedom and information outside. We build a great firewall to bring us off from hearing the real world, what we're talking about. They do a good job internally using euphemisms like Winnie the Pooh and all that, but it comes with great risk. We mentioned Starlink earlier in Taiwan. I would love to see something like Starlink in the PRC, where the Chinese people have their Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We should talk about this. The Chinese people and the Chinese government has signed up to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that says all people have the freedom of access to information. You cannot cut your people off from information in the world, and yet the CCP has done exactly that. So our foreign service officers and public diplomacy experts should take more of an aggressive stance in pointing out the flaws and the contradictions in, like, the 2016 ruling on their claims in the South China Sea, which we did, by the way, when I was there. We changed U.S. policy to actually comport and align with the 2016 ruling. I wish we would talk about that more. But I would focus more on those who know better, using their position in public diplomacy and information to let the world know that the PRC is not what they say it is, that the reason they've put this ring around themselves is they don't want you to know what's going on in Xinjiang with genocide, in Tibet with genocide, all the things that Falun Gong we've talked about. In short, focus more on the information space. Listen to those like this panel who know better, work harder to get that information out. And then one just off-the-wall suggestion, since we're talking about it, is someone should write a paper that looks a lot like the Marshall Plan that we instituted after World War II. If the PRC comes apart, if all of the stuff we're talking about comes to pass in the next week, is the U.S. and the rest of the capital of the free market world, the free world, ready to deal with the collapse of the PRC economy? I think we all see it coming, and it would be devastating if we don't prepare for it. So I think we should start that conversation to get people all thinking in the terms of not if, but when this thing comes apart. what are things we can do to prevent our own economies from going down that same path? Over.
Well, thank you, General. Okay, as we come to the final minutes, Deputy Secretary General Yi, you go back cleanup. Take it away. Oh, I'm going to ask a question, sorry. All right, does internal politic pressure make conflicts more likely, or does it sometimes make the CCP more cautious?
We know that, as I demonstrated in my presentation, right now Taiwan faces a very difficult situation because China since adopted the so-called Trojan horse kind of strategies to try to breach Taiwan's from within. That means China's infiltration in Taiwan is very serious. In particular, right now, all the parliaments are almost paralyzed because it's very divided now. So when we are discussion about how to strengthen Taiwan's military strength. Even the Professor Gordon Zhang just mentioned it's the right timing to sell a weapon to Taiwan. But the internal, kind of obstruction, in particular from the parliament, due to the many of them, has a very close relation with China. So their loyalty actually is not to Taiwan government, ruling government now. Oftentimes they, adopt all cooperation and the instruction from China instead of concern about the security in Taiwan. So that makes the situation very, very difficult when we are trying so hard to beef up Taiwan's militaries, purchase more, for example, drone system or the most advanced, weapons from the United States. That right now is almost, got stuck in the Taiwan's, parliament. And in addition to this kind of a domestic division, and we also need to concern China's will waste this great opportunity to cause more chaotic in Taiwan's domestic through all this, for China's kind of organization. So as we discuss all day, Taiwan's religions, Taiwan's, many of the, local kind of village head or the school teachers, they are almost, infield or being invited to China. So that's created a lot of Taiwan's right now. The China's influence is getting more and more influential. So I personally believe the domestic kind of faction fight or division is not good for Taiwan. That's from my personal perspective.
Oh, thank you so much. As we are running out of time, I'd like to thank all our panelists for the expert experiences that share for our audiences, and hopefully we can use that to use for our future policies making. Let's give them another round of applause. I'm sorry we run out of time, but so we don't have time for Q&A. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to our panelists. It's a great discussion. Now we've discussed security, human rights, and strategy. Our final conversation focuses on another essential pillar of resilience, our economics, technology, and energy partnerships. So our final panel today is titled Taiwan U.S. Alliance on Economic, Technology, and Energy Resilience. So please welcome our moderator, Professor Frank Xie, John M. Olin Palmetto Chair Professor at University of South Carolina, Aiken, and he also is Vice President of Research at the Consilium Institute. Let's welcome Frank Xie. Thanks, Professor.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, let's welcome our panelists, discussant, up stage, please. Okay, thank you very much for attending our session. Our session's topic is U.S.-Taiwan Alliance on the Resilience on Economic, Technology, and Energy. So basically, we're going to focus on building or fostering a strategic alliance between the United States and Taiwan over the key issues of energy cooperation, energy crisis, technological competition, and etc., and economy, of course. Right? We have a little bit change in our schedule and the overall structure here. We're going to have 3 speakers, and then we have Professor Ming coming back as a discussant. So we can have 3 presentations. Now, please stay until like in 12 to 14 minutes for each of our speakers. And then we can have a discussion and open the floor for questions, right? All right. We all understand that we are in a very specific, special time period in history. Our contemporary era, you can see that is filled completely with uncertainties, turmoils, conflicts, a lot of human hardships, right? And also this era is defined by the technological competition, huge, vicious competition, especially between the United States and China over things like such as artificial intelligence, AI, and drones technology, chip industry, and even in geopolitics, land grabbing and other things, right? And also, supply chain, of course. There's a supply chain shift, and there's a supply chain realignment and reformation of a supply chain. And that will, as I myself, I'm a business professor, so I'm trained in economics. I can see there's going to be a huge shift in the economic landscape of the world in the coming years. Okay? So with that alliance or strategic alliance between the U.S. and Taiwan becomes indispensable. Between the democratic countries, free countries, especially between U.S. and Taiwan, that's our focus today. We need that alliance. We need that alliance to counter the coercions by the Chinese communists. We have seen plenty of stories, incidences, and cases today in previous sessions. We need to build our resilience, and we need to find ways to mitigate those vulnerabilities in our system, in our bilateral relations, and then we need to try to build a roadmap for good, healthy, and sustaining relationship ongoing. Okay? With that, let me introduce you to our panelists, distinguished panelists. The first panel, the second one on my right, is Mr. Adam Savitt. Adam is the director of China Policies Initiative at the American First Public Institute. Right? Recently, Adam served as the senior advisor on national security with Secretary Brooke Rollins in the Department of Agriculture. Yeah. In that role, I was happy to learn that Adam was involved in some activities to prevent the Chinese from grabbing American land, Chinese encroachment on American land and resources, and also he worked on the supply chains, everything, right? And so that's, and also Adam, with his experience, will talk about something related to the recent Epic Fury, the war, and also China's as a complicit in the Iran war. Right? The second speaker, Mr. Wu Jialong, is the third one on my right here. Mr. Wu is a doctoral candidate in economics and from Columbia University. He's finishing his PhD there. But he is so eager to show off his plans, his talent. Before his graduation, he's already a famous speaker in the Chinese communities everywhere on macroeconomic issues. So he's a well-known macroeconomist already. Okay, that's Wu Jialong. Okay. Our third speaker, okay, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. Right, am I right? Sorry. Yeah. It's Mr. Dr. Chi-Mong Cheng, Tsung-Chi Yu博士. Dr. Cheng is associate professor on international relations and diplomacy at Taiwan University, Taiwan University. And what's interesting is that Dr. Cheng got his PhD in international relations and diplomacy from Poland, Warsaw University. He's going to bring us his perspective, his rich research on Eastern European issues, and he will talk us about the U.S.-Taiwan energy cooperations, right, under the CCP's infiltration. And he also has will show us some insight about the war in Ukraine and as to what that may affect U.S. and Taiwan. Okay? Without further ado, let's get started. And after the three presentations, we have a discussion, panel discussions. We are so happy to have Professor Ming Chu-Cheng coming back to us as a discussant. And so we can have a good discussion, and we'll open the floor for more questions. Okay? Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Adam, the floor is yours.
Professor, thank you so much. Thank you for Sean Lin for the kind invitation to speak today. I appreciate it. So the panel is about resilience, economic, technological, democratic. I want to make what might sound like a strange argument that Taiwan's resilience already was tested this spring, 4,000 miles away at a choke point called the Strait of Hormuz. Because in February, for the first time in modern history, the world's most important energy passage actually closed. And every capital in Asia, Taipei most of all, got to feel, not theorize, what dependency on a hostile power's goodwill actually means. My colleagues on this panel will give you the view from Taiwan. My job is the American side. And I want to show you by one playbook aimed at three different targets. Beijing has spent 2 decades engineering dependencies it can weaponize over the fuel that powers us, the food that feeds us, the materials we build our defense with. And I'll take them in that order: what the Iran war revealed, what we found at the Department of Agriculture, and what China's grip on critical materials means for the weapons that Taiwan depends on. At every stop, what it means for the U.S.-Taiwan relationship. So last month at the America First Policy Institute, we published a report arguing that Iran was never just a Middle East problem. For 20 years, Iran was China's counter-pivot. i.e. Beijing's mechanism for keeping America pinned down in the Middle East. Every carrier in the Gulf is a carrier not in the Western Pacific. Every diplomatic cycle spent on Iranian nuclear talks is attention not spent on Taiwan. And Beijing came by it cheap, roughly $140 billion in discounted oil purchases, dual-use components, navigation access, enough to keep Iran alive, but not enough necessarily to defend it. And that's because Beijing didn't need Iran to actually win anything. The distraction itself was the goal in this situation. Then came Operation Epic Fury, and notice what Beijing did when its strategic partner of 20 years came under American and Israeli attack. Nothing. Only statements. China has exactly one military overseas base in Djibouti. The United States has roughly 750 facilities in more than 80 countries. Simply, the Chinese Navy was not built to fight in the Persian Gulf. It was built for one thing, to deny American access inside the first island chain. So Beijing washed, as a second strategic partner destroyed within 2 months, Venezuela, followed by Iran, and could do nothing but issue press releases. For an audience like this one, that watches the party closely, you know that what that does to Xi Jinping's carefully built image as the man who, quote, manages the barbarians. That image is very hard to sustain when the supposed barbarian in question, President Trump, just dismantled your counter-pivot architecture. So what does this mean for deterrence in the Taiwan Strait? My read is similar to the previous panel, that we are in the peak window, the next 5 to 10 years, for a move on Taiwan. China's economy and demographics both get worse after this, not better. But I don't believe Beijing pulls the trigger because the continuing pressure is the strategy. As Xi extracts more from the permanent threat, the political warfare, the gray zone pressure, the daily incursions, than he could from a potentially catastrophic amphibious gamble that he might actually lose. And this spring, the U.S. intelligence community moved towards that view officially. The 2026 annual threat assessment judged that Chinese leaders are not currently planning to invade in 2027 and have no fixed timeline, in part because the purges mentioned previously inside the PLA have gutted its senior command. Taipei's response was prudent, to welcome the assessment, but remember that Beijing has never renounced the use of force. One note of discipline, and I'll credit Taiwan's own analysts for this, because their commentary after the strikes was more sober than Washington's. Iran's air defenses with old systems and no integrated modern network were structurally destined to fail. China's defenses are not Iran's defenses. The right lesson from Epic Fury is not that a Taiwan fight would be easy, it's that American capability, resolve, and intelligence are indeed real, and Beijing's planners now have to price that in. Now the energy dimension, because here's where Hormuz, of course, should be the ultimate warning sign. Taiwan imports roughly 97% of its energy. When the strait closed, it was holding about 11 days of natural gas reserves, the lowest in East Asia, with over a third of its LNG having been routed through Hormuz. And here's the uncomfortable translation to the Taiwan Strait. It's that a blockade doesn't need to look like a blockade. A quarantine of LNG carriers is a slow strangle without a shot fired. And of course, the world just watched the choke point close overnight. And of course, Beijing was watching as well. The answer to this is already underway. Taiwan is accelerating long-term contracts for American LNG, Japan and Korea likewise. Understand what those contracts actually buy. When you contract for American gas, you're also contracting with the U.S. Navy as your delivery guarantee. America's cargoes bound for Taiwan give the Navy standing to ensure safe passage, even under blockade conditions. In this sense, deterrence and energy security are in fact the same question. And this is not theoretical anymore. In April, a tanker out of Texas sailed 35 days through the Panama Canal, deliberately avoiding Hormuz, and offloaded nearly 1 million barrels in Tokyo Bay. This was Japan's first American crude since the crisis began. By this month, roughly half of Japan's crude imports are expected to be American, and Tokyo has signed on to stockpile U.S. crude on its own soil. Meanwhile, Korea has cut its Middle East dependence from 69% to 56%, with American barrels running a quarter above last year's pace. So this reorientation is not just a forecast, it's actually happening before our eyes. But notice who's missing from that list. With Japan having American crude in Tokyo Bay, Korea has already rerouted a quarter of its barrels. Taiwan is the most exposed of the three, but it has contracts and letters of intent thus far. CPC's commitment to triple the American share of its gas imports is real. The Alaska project will one day put a supply line across the North Pacific that never touches a choke point that China can reach. But Alaska delivers in the 2030s, and Taiwan holds just 11 days of gas today. So the near-term agenda, do for Taiwan what we did for Japan. Accelerate the contracted Gulf Coast volumes now, not in the 2030s. Build out storage on the island and jointly held. Taiwan holds months of oil in reserve. Its gas covers 11 days. So the task is to bring gas up to the standard already applied to oil. 11 days of gas is a choice, and so can be depth measured in months. Now let me put on a different hat, because I had the privilege, as mentioned, of serving in the Trump administration as senior advisor for national security at the USDA. And Beijing runs the same playbook against food that it runs against fuel. And we found it in three major places. First, the land itself. Chinese nationals own roughly 247,000 acres of American farmland. Yes, a small share of the total, but disproportionately clustered near military installations, and that is not an accident. This is why Secretary Rollins launched the National Farm Security Action Plan on a simple premise that farm security is national security. And this February, the USDA signed a memorandum with the Department of War, pairing agricultural expertise with defense capability, starting with a DARPA partnership on agricultural vulnerabilities. I had the opportunity to contribute to this story because part of my own portfolio at USDA was strengthening AFIDA, the disclosure law that produces those numbers. For decades, it was a paper filing statute with penalties that nobody really feared. I directed the project that brought filing online, and the modernization has continued, as just last week, USDA proposed the biggest overhaul of the law since its enactment in 1978, with real escalating penalties for concealing ownership. And Congress is moving in parallel. The Farm Bill, working its way through this building right now, has been retitled, tellingly, the Farm, Food, and National Security Act. And the House version bans farmland purchases by foreign adversaries outright. Deterring CCP ownership requires accurate reporting and consistent enforcement. And finally, we do have serious executive and legislative reform underway on this question. Second, the supply chains that actually ensure abundant agricultural output. In 2013, a Chinese conglomerate bought Smithfield, America's largest pork producer, and with it, one of the two largest Chinese farmland holdings in the country. In 2017, a Chinese state-owned enterprise bought Syngenta, one of the world's largest seed and crop input companies. You don't need to actually own the farm if you own the seeds, the chemistry, the processing. The enforcement, luckily, though, is catching up, especially at the state level. Arkansas fined Syngenta and ordered it to divest its research farms in the state. The lesson that we internalized at USDA is that ownership of the food system, not just the land, is a strategic variable we need to pay attention to. And third, the trade leverage. Beijing turns its agricultural purchases on and off like a spigot. Soybeans one season, nothing the next, because the food demand, like the rare earths, is a coercion tool. The handshake in May on agriculture was a win for diplomacy, perhaps, but China has shown time and again that these promises are revocable at will. Now, the wonderful news for this panel specifically is that Taiwan actually figured this out before we did. Perhaps because living 90 miles from the threat, Taipei treats Chinese acquisition of land and strategic assets as forbidden by default. Permission is the rare exception. An unauthorized investment draws penalties. In America, we run the opposite system. Open by default, disclosure as an afterthought, and that gap is what we've been closing. And understand why it matters to the alliance. In a Taiwan contingency, America is the arsenal, America is the breadbasket, and the energy supplier of the free world's response. A food system disruption inside the United States is not just a U.S. domestic problem, it actually degrades the coalition's Taiwan security depends on. And it would ripple through the world economy. And therefore, hardening the American homeland also is Taiwan policy. Which brings me to the final target, the materials required to build the weapons themselves. I think we all know the rare earth story, that China controls roughly 91% of global refining, and 2 weeks after the Trump-Xi summit, it slapped export controls on the very American firms building our alternative. Last month, AFPI published on the next chapter of the same playbook, Carbon Fiber and Advanced Composites, the structural backbone of drones, missiles, and the next generation defense platforms. Through state subsidies, below market pricing, and joint ventures, Beijing has been running on composites the exact same play it ran on rare earths and solar. Chinese carbon fiber has entered the U.S. at roughly $14 a kilogram against $39 for Japanese fiber. Again, this is the same story that's repeating across all sectors. Made in China 2025, dominance by dumping. And so the West is building its precision warfare future on materials that its chief adversary controls. The answer is in allied industrial frameworks, Pax Silica for semiconductors and minerals, and what we've proposed, a Pax Composita for advanced materials, trusted allied production, members prioritizing the other's goods, so no democracy has to choose between a low price and security. And Taiwan is written into that architecture by name, structured so that non-treaty partners can participate fully, and Taiwan already plays an outsized role in supplying non-Chinese drone components, just as it does with the semiconductors. Its Drone Diplomacy Task Force has a letter of intent with the leading American Uncrewed Systems Association. This is where the U.S.-Taiwan relationship provides comparative advantage. Every drone Taiwan can build without a Chinese partner is a unit of deterrence. So I'll leave you with this. Again, one playbook for those three targets: fuel, food, the materials of defense. In each case, Beijing spent decades of engineering a dependency. In each case, the Iran war, a corporate acquisition, or a round of export controls showed us the weapon that was being tested. In each case, the answer is the same. Trusted supply among free nations, and Taiwan is a partner in that, not a protectorate. So likely the Strait of Hormuz will flip open and shut again. The Taiwan Strait will continue to come under pressure, but the reorientation that's now underway, i.e. who Asia trusts to deliver its security, its fuel, its inputs, is not permanent. Taiwan has already made its choice. And for this forum in particular, of course, America's quarrel has never been with the Chinese people. It is with the party that rules them. Taiwan deliberately chose freedom. And America's job is to make sure that that choice is never taken away. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Adam. Okay, next we have Zhao Long, please.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, my topic today is about the linkage between economics and geopolitics. It's your PPT, it's not mine.
That's not his, yeah. This is the next speakers. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The topic is America first, globalization second. Why wrong globalization makes communist China a big threat to the world. The world is small enough to offer opportunity for us to meet here, but big enough to accommodate us to change it. Steve Jobs, Apple founder, tried to use innovation to change the world. And the Trump team tried to offer a new strategic vision to change American policy, foreign policy, and thereby changing the world. And then we try to see why globalization doesn't work out well as expected. Actually, globalization creates U.S. the most important rival, the communist China. It's American policy that raised up communist China. And then communist China turned back to challenge American leadership in the world. How come it's about the wrong globalization? Okay, next. President Trump has made a big contribution by changing American strategic vision. The communist China is no longer a strategic partner, but rather a strategic rival. And there are several origins of threats to the United States, the national security, the national interest, and so on. And as it turns out, all the threats actually comes from communist China. Almost no exception, from economic, strategic, or even ideological fronts. In every aspect, the origin of the threats to the United States comes from simply communist China. And this communist China actually is raised up by the USA, by the wrong globalization. Okay, next. The Trump team, in the final year of the first presidency, namely Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and the National Security Advisor O'Brien, they offer a new view that the biggest foreign policy mistake in the past 90 years is misjudgment of the nature of the CCP. That's the biggest foreign policy mistake in the past 90 years, the misjudgment of the CCP. And then President Trump turned around the strategic ideas about China. And then there's a trade war against China. The beginning is the re-evaluation of the nature of the CCP. Okay, and then the previous page, please. The previous one, please. Okay. What's the problem now? There's a theory underlying USA's support for Chinese reform. The theory is peaceful evolution. Peaceful evolution underlines the entire idea of the U.S. support for Chinese reform. And this theory completely fails. There's no such a thing as peaceful evolution. And if you look back, you can see that the idea, the peaceful evolution theory or the engagement policy is the underlying driving force of this kind of U.S.-China relation. And this idea fails. And it deserves our attention to reconsider this situation. Okay, so one of the reasons is that when China joins globalization, there are a lot of economic development, a lot of economic interest. But those who has the power will determine how to distribute and redistribute those economic interests. So from the state-owned enterprise to private enterprises, when you join the globalization, you have division of labor, you become world factory, right? You accumulate wealth. And those who have power, political power, will determine the redistribution of a lot of economic wealth. So you have economic reform without political reform. This kind of system fails. You don't see peaceful evolution because you don't have political reform. So once power, you don't have check and balance about power. The power will extend itself and turn into totalitarianism. And that's the point. So USA helps a totalitarian country to join globalization. And it's the roots of today's problem. Okay, next. So all the problem now comes from the wrong pattern, the wrong path of globalization. Okay, next. And I suggest there may be at least three sources of this wrong globalization. The number one, next, there's a trap. Okay, when you bring large developing countries, by large I mean you have a huge population, you have the so-called population bonus. In Chinese, 人口红利. When you have cheap labor, capital and technology will pursue cheap labor. And it's a good idea, right? Capital and technology pursue cheap labor. So when the large developing country joins globalization, at first they pursue economic development, economic interest, okay. Later they change course. They begin to pursue nationalism, national pride. Then they try to see themselves as a regional power and later become a world power. They become to pursue regional dominance and later world dominance. And so these kind of changes come to the large developing countries again and again. You see China and later India. They have large population and you want to enjoy the cheap labor, right? Enjoy their world factory status. But later and later, eventually, they will pursue nationalism. They will see national pride. They want to become a regional power. They want to pursue regional dominance and then eventually challenging U.S. leadership in the world. No exception. Remember, no exception in this. Okay, so I call this nationalism trap. So in the Clinton era, USA pulls China into globalization. They have no idea of this nationalism trap. Okay, next. The second one is totalitarianism trap, which means when powers lack check and balance, okay, you will try to collect and redistribute a lot of economic wealth, economic interest. And therefore, they try to increase their social control and try to have outward expansion. And in this kind of case, you don't see peaceful evolution. The idea of peaceful evolution comes from Taiwan and South Korea. When you have economic development, you see the formation of civil society, middle class, and then the social pressure force democratic transition. In that kind of situation, it's because Taiwan is already a mature democratic society. South Korea, the same thing. And so based on the right political foundation, the economic changes eventually bring up political changes. But this is not the case of communist China. They have economic reform without political reform. So globalization creates a lot of economic stake. And this economic stake then is up to the ruling party, those with power, political power, those class, then they try to counter any possible peaceful evolution. And that's the sources of today's problem. Next. Okay, there's a final trap. It's a communist China syndrome. Okay. The communist China actually combines four things. Number one, socialism. Number two, totalitarianism. Number three, nationalism. Number four, expansionism. When you have these four elements combined together, this kind of communist China is no longer just a developing country, and it doesn't worth globalization. It doesn't worth U.S. support for the so-called economic reform. Actually, globalization strengthens the communist control of the society rather than moving to a democratic transition. Okay, so as we can see now, the Trump administration calls for America first, and then I said globalization second. We don't have to rely on, peace does not rely on the other side being a good guy. Rather, on the other side, they are not being the bad guy. We cannot offer globalization to a communist regime, to a totalitarian regime. And if you do that, you are creating trouble for yourself. So we are welcoming the Trump doctrine of America first. So in this kind of big country confrontation, you have three aspects. Number one, semiconductor. Number two, AI. Number three, Taiwan. If you have semiconductor, you win. If you have AI, you win. If you have Taiwan, you win. Okay? The confrontation for hegemony between USA and communist China depends on these three aspects. And fortunately, these three aspects actually coming down to just one, Taiwan. Who has Taiwan? Who wins this confrontation? If Taiwan moves toward China, China wins this game. If Taiwan moves toward USA, USA wins this game. And we hope for a right pattern of globalization, reset the supply chain, which means a non-red supply chain or a democratic supply chain. And this will be in the interest of USA as well as Taiwan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jialong. You know, in the business and economics world, we think the globalization is dead. If not dying, if not dying, it's dead already. So I guess you don't need to worry too much now. Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Cheng. Yeah, please.
I'm really just honored to be invited here to present my point with our experts here and just discuss with you.
But forgive me, okay, I cannot speak a word without PPT, okay, so I should stand here. I cannot sitting there and speak smoothly, okay. And as described, as introduced by our panel leaders, Professor Xie, I got my PhD in Poland, and my research field largely covers Russian foreign policy and national security policy, and the Central and Eastern European issues. So, therefore, my topic is, U.S.-Taiwan cooperation on critical technology and energy under CTV infiltration and lessons from Ukraine. So, because of the limitation of my research field, so my emphasis will be on the lessons from Ukraine. Okay, because all participants in this room, but me, are all experts on the first part of the title. Okay, so next, thank you. Next page, thank you. Okay. So, okay, my first one, it's my first page will be on Ukraine's pre-war's experience as a warning for Taiwan's institutional security. So, and largely focus on legislative infiltrations, which take away Ukrainians' independence. Okay, and just more and more controls the whole Ukrainian country. And the second one will be on the obstruction of procurement, okay, and which is the the backgrounds of the invasion of Crimean Peninsula, and also just February 22 invasion in 2022. And the third one is the drone development, okay, which is the turning point of Russian-Ukraine war, and also the concerned very much by CCP, okay, to Taiwan's drone development. And the last one, the last focus will be on energy security. Energy security has long been as a leverage of Russia, okay, to control Ukraine economy, okay, and so that's also Ukraine economy cannot be independent, okay, and more and more relies on, okay, and even Ukrainian government, okay, have to repay its debt was its just state of energy was advanced weapons. Okay, it's quite ridiculous, but it was true. And second one, next one, sorry. So, and then the Russian-Ukraine war shows that war does not begin with invasion; it begins with infiltration. Okay, so we may say that the war, the Russian-Ukraine war, begins from the first day of Ukrainian independence in 1991. And then the following is the way Russia weakened Ukraine through many ways. First of all, political infiltration, to infiltrate the politician, political party, and cultivate pro-Russian politician. And then second one is economic leverage, as I have already just explained. And the third one, media manipulation, okay, to subsidize pro-Russian media, okay, and to deliver more and more propaganda. And then the next one is cultural penetration. Just take advantage of the shared cultural background, like the Orthodox background and the just Eastern Slavic nationalism. Okay, yeah, to deliver, to spread just sorry, not yet, please. Okay, and then the most important is defense dismantlement. Okay, and which largely take off the Ukraine's national defense. Okay, and to make Ukraine very much vulnerable. Okay, to Russian invasion. Okay, so those experience for Taiwan. Okay, like we may summarize the CCP as infiltration and subversion are the greatest threat, okay, to U.S.-Taiwan cooperation on critical technology and energy. That's the reason why I would like to present this topic next. Okay, so refers to the lessons we draw from Ukraine or Russian-Ukraine war. So, like I said, Russia cultivated the pro-Russian parties, proxies, and collaborators. So those actors inside Parliament to abstract pro-Western policy undermined Ukraine's NATO EU orientation and helped paralyze the governance and divide society. Okay, so we may say when a legislature is penetrated, national security coherence collapse. Okay, so Russian infiltration to Ukraine was so successful, and the most successful part was the election of the pro-Russian president. That's called Yanukovych in the year 2010. Okay, who was such a Russian friend, always a pro-Russian, and widely regarded as the puppet of Vladimir Putin. Next. So let's see what Yanukovych was doing. Okay, so the most important was the just a long-term defense of Ukraine, okay, under the dominance of Russia, like the cutting of defense spending and the weakening command and readiness, and penetrating military and intelligence leadership, and delaying reform and reducing deterrence. Okay, and the result of that was just in the year 2014, okay, when Vladimir Putin sent not many soldiers, okay, to invade Crimea, and Ukraine at the times can hardly organize resist troops, okay, to defend. Okay, so Russia took the whole peninsula in just a couple of days. But eventually Putin misjudged Ukraine as 2 weeks to resist. Okay, so this helped enables the so-called special military operation. Okay, but why Putin misjudged? Okay, of course there is a long story. I'm afraid I don't have time. If we have more time, I can just introduce the very interesting story. Next one, thank you. Okay, so and those are what I have introduced, the lessons we draw from the Ukrainian case. Okay, and what would be the warning for Taiwan? So first of all, we should remember in the Ukrainian case, infiltration generally comes before conflict. So Beijing's strategy toward Taiwan is not limited to military intimidation. Okay, also includes United Front Operation of 统一阵线, and the proxy politics which Taiwan suffers severely in recent years, and the disinformation and the cognitive warfare, and also together with economic pressures and the long-term influence over media's parliament and public opinions. Okay, and that's we may say the most dangerous external threat often work through internal collaborators. Okay, so and I guess just all experts like you, okay, must be aware of this. Okay, and so next one, thank you. So and then let's check how CCP infiltrations harms U.S.-Taiwan technology cooperation. Okay, so the critical technology cooperation requires, first of all, high trust. Okay, so the CCP is now damaging the trust. Okay, yeah, to make Taiwan away from a trustworthy partner. And then the cybersecurity and secrecy, okay, which had been emphasized in the previous discussion. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. And thirdly, stable law and budget support, okay, then which has been seen in Taiwan's legislative unit. And so, and the continued infiltration may let us guess in advance, led to leakage of sensitive technology and high infrastructure and supply chain risk, and then legislative and budget obstruction, and then the U.S. doubt about cooperation security. Okay, so this issue is not only whether Taiwan has advanced the technology, but whether it can protect it. Okay, so it's a logical issue. Okay, and the cooperation, the U.S.-Taiwan cooperation on high technology and energy security. Okay, which can prevent Taiwan from further infiltrated, okay, by China, by CCP. Okay, and but to block CCP infiltrations, okay, can reinforce the U.S.-Taiwan cooperation on key technology and energy security. Okay, so this is mutual reinforced issues. The next one, thank you. Okay, and further, so energy cooperation is also fundamentally a national security issue. Okay, so the Ukrainian case shows that energy dependence can be weaponized. So, okay, let me emphasize again. Okay, from the very beginning of Ukrainian independence. Okay, and Russia take advantage. Okay, of the just short of energy of Ukraine. Okay, so Russia just manipulate the energy leverage, okay, and to exchange the some I just mentioned advanced weaponized like strategic bomber, like missiles, okay, and which Ukraine shared from the dissolution of Soviet Union, okay, and this way just many times Okay, and just the energy has been weaponized by Russia, okay, to further weaken the Ukraine. So therefore, from the lessons, Taiwan needs the diversified energy sources. Undoubtedly, every country is doing so. And secondly, the grid resilience. Okay, the electricity supplied grid should be stronger and resilient, and also wartime backup capacity, okay, and secure infrastructure, okay, which has been discussed in previous this morning. And so if internal obstructions continues, so U.S. and Taiwan's energy cooperation will remain slow, just shallowed and fragile. Okay, so that's very important, especially to Taiwan, the national security. So next one. Okay, yeah, I saw our panel leader is watching his watch. Okay, so I guess it's time. So let me make a quick conclusion. So next one, so Taiwan's legislature is the key battlegrounds. And so if the legislature becomes an arena for CCP proxy and collaborator, it can obstruct some arms procurement package. Okay, like we so although it's being the procurement of U.S. arms has been approved around 2 months ago, okay, in legislature yuan in Taiwan, okay, but very much compromised, okay, not as it was designed by the current just Taiwan government. And secondly, the drone development legislation, okay, now it's also blocked, okay, by the opponent party, okay, and among not all, but among the opponent party, there are many China-friendly politicians, and then the following is cybersecurity and the infrastructure protection law. Okay, and Taiwan still there is still much room for Taiwan to improve. Okay, and very important is energy resilience legislation. Okay, and so therefore I this morning I was listening many discussions in this conference. Okay. And so the consequence will be weaken defense capability and reduce credibility with the United States. Okay, that's quite damaging. And so the core message it brings is the institutional obstructions can be more damaging than external threat alone. It's kind of subversion already. Okay, next one. Let's jump to and what the United States can do, also being discussed and this morning. So let's just quickly browse it. Something like just Tyson color infiltration, review and support cybersecurity, backup energy, and infrastructure security, and the rest political cost and obstructing defense investment, and so on and so on. Okay. So the destination is to build cooperation on a secured and trustworthy foundation. That's which the United States can help Taiwan. Okay, and next one, conclusion. Okay, so the conclusion I would like to deliver here is, first of all, Ukraine's license is clear. Okay, war is often the final stage of infrastructure of subversion. Okay, and for Taiwan, without first addressing CCP infiltration and the institutional subversions, okay, U.S.-Taiwan cooperation on critical technology and energy cannot be secured. Okay, so that's very important thing Taiwan should be in mind. And second, next one. And then, thirdly, just some real priority for Taiwan's this counter-infiltration. Okay, that's the number one job Taiwan should encounter, and then to strengthen institutional resilience. That's something like the legislation of some national security law, and then reinforce defense and drone capacity. That's also the priority Taiwan should take into consider, and then some deepen technology and energy cooperation. Okay, so finally, I would like to say without counter-infiltrations, there can be no truly durable U.S.-Taiwan cooperation. Okay, and that's my very brief presentation. Okay, thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Cheng. Okay, next, I'm going to use my chair privilege to ask the first question, and then I ask Dr. Ming to offer his view, comments, and questions, and then we're going to open the floor. As you know, there are two microphones on both sides, either side, and please approach that, stand behind the line, and I'll let you know when you can ask. When you ask questions, again, also identify, tell us your name and affiliation, and you can specify which speaker to ask your question to or to the general panel. Okay. My question, I think both Adam and Dr. Cheng talked about the trust issues, trust between the nations, trust, right? And I'm a business faculty, you know. In business, we talk about the trust also. You know, we talk about we are now today addressing strategic alliances between countries. And in human society, there are alliances, partnership between humans, between men and women. We call that a family, right? In business, there is the strategic alliance of businesses. There is the joint ventures. There are partnerships, and other cross-country collaborations just between all those companies, businesses, all sorts, right? In business, we call it joint venture. You probably heard about that. Joint venture or JV. One unfortunate fact is that in our society today, with the declining morality, unfortunately, I'm sure we all can see that, joint venture has a success rate or failure rate of actually 70%. 70% of joint ventures go under after a few years. Yeah. I'm not making predictions, right? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, right? With regard to U.S.-Taiwan relations, trust is the issue. A couple months ago, I was invited to view a documentary. I was in Atlanta, in a documentary made by a Taiwanese documentary filmmaker. And the name of the documentary is The Chip Odyssey. Some of you might have seen that. And in Chinese Mandarin, it's Zhao Sanzhe. I think somebody mentioned that also. Yeah, The Chip Odyssey. It detailed the Taiwan's journey from sending their best engineers to America to learn the semiconductors, everything, A to Z, and then went back to Taiwan to build the whole semiconductor industry from scratch until it's a stardom today. Huge success. Everyone knows TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. And the founders of TSMC and others were interviewed in that documentary. I was really impressed by that one. Okay? Together with that, I'm also, I heard a lot of complaints, could be partly due to this Chinese propaganda, CCP propaganda of spreading this U.S. skepticism. Yes, being skeptic about the U.S. intentions and everything. One thing is about this chip industry. or by TSMC. Now, the U.S. government now wants or force, I think they play the hardball, strong arm to get Taiwan or TSMC to invest in this country, in Arizona. I heard lots of money, billions, $100 billion, several factories, probably trying to move the whole supply chain to the U.S. And then some Taiwanese, I believe, I heard that they have this concern. Taiwan or semiconductor or TSMC is considered their 镇国神山. Yeah, it's kind of like a holy mountain that's safeguarding the nation. It's a huge leverage Taiwan has over not just the U.S., the whole world. Taiwan has something that the whole world wants, right? Now, if that 镇国神山or the huge leverage is gone, it's gone to America, and U.S. may not need us anymore, then will United States still be so dependent on Taiwan, or the alliance or the trust will still be there? That's the concern that I heard. I was discussing with many people from Taiwan and everything. So I want you guys, the panelists' view on that, and see with those intriguing technological chip industry challenge, how could we maintain a strong and ongoing, sustainable U.S.-Taiwan relations?
Well, I think we have to try. Well, first of all, the United States should be looking out for the United States' interests regarding inbound investment from foreign companies and reinforcing our own security. I trust that Taiwan's leaders, TSMC's leaders, are making decisions that are in consonance with their national interests. My understanding is that the plants in Arizona, the expertise, the training in Arizona is not, the most advanced chips, and it is something that they can afford to export to U.S. production. My understanding is that the totality of the ecosystem within Taiwan, the campus they have there and the lithography machines and the expertise is not replicable in the United States or elsewhere. But I would point out even though there's a vast concentration of the production of the most advanced chips in Taiwan, it's already interconnected. We're already interreliant, and we need all of the pieces. I mean, it's very important for the Dutch to have their national champion ASML, the lithography machines, which TSMC relies on. They rely on NVIDIA designs. It's already an interdependent system by definition. I do understand the concerns with the silicon shield that leaves Taiwan naked in that sense. But I always argue when people say, "Oh, we'll just get the chips off the island and then we can leave it alone," I say absolutely not. It's the geographical and strategic keystone of the first island chain. It is a military necessity. It blocks the PLA Navy from penetrating into the Pacific generally, interdicting shipping and everything. And this has been solidified in the national security strategy and the national defense strategy at the Department of War, that it is our policy to defend the first island chain, including Taiwan. So I think those are not the precise thing. They can be divorced, the security relationship and the semiconductor relationship.
Do you have something?
Taiwanese semiconductor business actually benefits from U.S. policy. U.S. trained Taiwanese semiconductor engineers starting from 1976. Taiwan sent a lot of engineer people to the U.S. and get enough training and then coming back to Taiwan. So that's the first point. U.S. has trust on Taiwan at that time. Right now, the globalization turns focus from division of labor and economic interest to national security and trust. So If the trust between U.S. and Taiwan continues, we will expect more cooperation, more mutual benefits, not just in semiconductor business. There will be more, such as drone business or even the new areas of new technology. The most important thing is for Taiwan to be a small democratic country and has a good record of following the rules, following the commitment, following the agreement. So Taiwan is a reliable partner to the U.S., and then you will see more and more cooperation between these two countries.
Right, now let's turn to Dr. Professor Ming, our discussant, for his comments.
Well, instead of commenting or discussing the presentations given by the panelists here in particular, I think I'll make a general observation for background. Well, we will always say that leaders in the democratic countries in a democratic country would have to deal with all kinds of political pressure, such as criticism from the opposition parties and public opinion, public criticism, and perhaps the biggest one is the pressure for re-election. So sometimes we call it the tenure pressure. So in contrast, we say that leaders in the totalitarian regime or totalitarian state do not have to face that kind of pressure. So people tend to assume that Xi Jinping doesn't have to face tenure pressure. But the question is it really so? He doesn't have to face tenure pressure? I disagree with that. As I see it, he has to face tenure pressure from three fronts: economic, social, and political. In terms of the economic pressure or the pressure from the economic front, as I see it, he has been making several major mistakes in terms of his economic policy. Let me be brief. His determination to get into war, get into a tit-for-tat war against Trump's tariff war in the first tenure and the second tenure, and that's the first one. Second, the forceful repossession of Hong Kong. And then thirdly, the very strict quarantine policy during the COVID period, and which leads to suffocation and bankruptcy of millions of small and medium enterprises or businesses in mainland China. And then that leads to a sharp decrease in their productivity and their manufacturing capabilities. And that hurts badly about their exporting capabilities, and then that eventually leads to increasing amount of unemployment. So that's the origins of the social unrest as we witness here now in China. And that's the third mistake that he made. The fourth one is promotion of state-owned enterprises and the suppression of privately owned businesses. And the fifth one is his great effort into military building, an arms race level of military building, which is very costly in terms of financial capability for a country, let alone the military drills and also the military intimidation against Taiwan. All these are very costly. And then the sixth mistake that he made is the Belt Road Initiative, which is very costly, and lots of corruption is involved in it. And the last mistake he made in economic area is the corruption that arises from these policies. So all these economic mistakes will lead to social unrest. unemployment and crimes and riots. So people are now actually sharing a very strong aspiration for a change, for a big change or social change. And that, as I see it, will eventually lead to the aspiration for revolution or something like that. It happens in the Chinese history all the time for thousands of years. And then all these will eventually lead to his political pressure. As his comrades will see that in the past 3 terms that you did poorly in economy, in society, and also in diplomacy. And in addition to all these, you're making too many purges. And we hate you for that. So now you're talking about a 4th term. What are you talking about? You want to purge more people? We're the survivors. And now you want the 4th term, you will purge more people. How can we let you do that? So what I'm saying is, isn't he facing a tenure pressure himself? So people always assume that he'll get reelected in the 21st Congress of the Chinese Communist Party in 2027. I do not think so. I'm not saying that he will not get it. I'm saying that he'll be facing a very, very strong opposition and some very big obstacles. So instead of getting a 4th term, he'll probably be facing things like stepping down, purge, imprisonment, or even assassination. So what I'm saying is Xi Jinping is facing internal and external political pressure, and that is not for him alone. That's the case for the Chinese Communist Party as a whole. So what we can do is we'll make it the best preparation for it, and then we should increase our pressure against them. Well, today we've been talking about topics like cybersecurity. Perhaps we should change our mindset and being more offensive. So shouldn't we be thinking more along the line of cyber offense or cyber attacks? So it's not really a comment or discussion about the previous presentation, but something added on just to as a supplement to our discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ming. Yeah. Well, we still have a few minutes for a couple questions. If anyone would like, please step up to the 2 microphones we got here, and just tell us your name and your affiliation. Anyone? Please. I see someone up there. Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't have much experience on national security or the policies, but I think technology and infiltration are very important, and I'm also thinking about, is there any way to bring the information that we can share around the world about democracy and freedom to people, to Chinese people who are living in mainland China but are blocked from the Great Firewall? So if people can awake from inside, that can help within as well.
Okay, great. I think I heard that the United States has the tool to break through the Chinese firewall, the Great Firewall of China. I wanted to hear from our experts here. What do you think? Adam, do you know anything from your experience with the administration?
I have no special insight.
Well, That's what I heard. You know, I heard the U.S. government does have the capability, but I think using that, if they do, using that or not, it's a political view, I guess, political question. At this time, I guess we just hope. Another thing is that even from private sector, Elon Musk, Starlink is a huge possibility if it is open like he's opening that in Ukraine or in Russia or in Iran or Middle East. The Chinese people can easily get a small antenna and receive signals. So there's many commercial business or political concerns that prevent people from, going through that. So.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think if the Chinese people, I grew up in China, they are very kind and hardworking. If they are on the same page with us, I think it's like the Chinese government, the CCPs, attacking to Taiwan, their transnational repression, their persecution on religious people, they don't have any ground.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm from China. I can see that. I'm sure our panels will agree. Yeah.
Okay,
thank you for your question. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Yes, I'm Grant Newsham with Center for Security Policy. I just have a question. It's for the entire panel. Could you comment on the idea of an economic Article 5, which is a reference to the NATO Article 5, which says an attack on one country is an attack on all, and you get assistance, particularly when we talk about standing up to China's economic onslaught. There's a lot of talk, and then when you do it, the Chinese hit you hard economically. So just whatever you think. An economic Article 5, is it a good idea? Would it work? How would it work? Thank you.
I like that idea. Interesting. Come on, guys. Who wants to? Go ahead.
When this kind of attack happens, it's better to put pressure on communist China. Offensive is better than just defensive. So we will let China suffer from a lot of import failure. They cannot get a lot of things if they try to control other people's imports. I mean, for example, they shut down the imports from Australia about red wine, lobster, coal, a lot of similar things. Okay, they try to use that as a weapon. Okay, and then we try to do the same thing on them. We try to limit their outside sources. We try to put pressure on China rather than just busy to offset their pressure. That would be better. I mean, offensive would be better than defensive.
I think it would be difficult to have a hard and fast trigger of that sense. Well, number one, Article 5 itself is only being used once, right? Sort of inconsequentially in Afghanistan. But no, I think it'd be more a pattern like the Pax Silica, right? Which is drawing a big line around markets, fortifying those supply chains, the rare earths, and all the way up the stack to the silicon. And I think probably our democratic eyes wouldn't be comfortable with a binding economic, you're basically saying an economic war, basically, right? And I think they would feel that would lead to kinetic war, and I think that would be too much. So yeah, I think the economic pooling of effort, resources, and that sort of thing.
I kind of agree with, go along with what Adam said. In order to invoke Article 5, you'd have NATO first, or economic NATO. Do we have an equivalent of economic NATO? You can say the WTO was one, or is one, right? But the WTO, we can see with the trade wars, trade protectionism, it's in trouble. Maybe now is a good time to form a democratic alliance of free countries, new trade pact. That could be a new economic NATO. Then we can invoke Article 5. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll ask a question, kind of building on what Grant brought up, and that is...
I'm sorry, could you identify yourself?
I'm sorry, Tom McDevitt, Chairman of the Washington Times. And a project that's kind of cooking behind the scenes is a recommendation of something like a Pacific Charter, similar to what Churchill and Roosevelt signed in 1941, the Atlantic Charter, a vision that brought the democratic allies together. Does the panel think that might have any salience in this era where it's obvious the CCP is rising, is aggressive, and it's a huge, huge problem? Would a Pacific Charter make sense? Is it possible? Thank you.
Great. Which one? Who wants to take on that?
Actually, this question is pretty much in line with the previous one. the Economic Article 5, the same thing. It's not easy. It's a good idea, but it's not easy. For instance, the Russian invasion against Ukraine. Well, if we could unite, if we can unite together and then strike back, is it possible? We see that European countries are buying LNG and also buying oil from Russia. So they have heavy dependency upon Russian LNG and oil. If they retaliate again, if they punish Russia for that, they probably be retaliated by the Russians by cutting the supply of LNG and oil. So it's like every country is calculating their own risk, calculating their economic interests involved in it. For instance, when we're talking about imposing sanctions against Russia, India was buying oil, Russian oil, and reprocess it and sell it to European countries. So, and there's nothing that we can do, nothing that the United States could do about India. So pretty much the same thing about this Pacific Charter. It's a good idea, but the question is, can everybody jump up against Beijing when Beijing is doing something bad to any of these? Well, we talk about Article 5 of NATO, but is it so trustworthy? Do you think that Hungary would jump into war against anybody or whoever? So we're not sure about that. Basically, it's a good idea. It's pretty much in line with the United Nations idea. Everyone for everyone, but still, it's a good idea, but it's hard to achieve. So let's keep that in mind. We can work it up a little bit, like 2 countries, 3 countries, or 4 countries, one at a time, and that's possible. If you want to put everybody together at one time, I think it's very difficult. As a political scientist, that's what I can tell you.
And there's been some advocacy for that, like an Asian NATO, the ones we already have a bilateral treaty with, Australia, Japan, Philippines, and I think Eli Ratner is a major proponent of that, as well as the former Japanese PM, which Grant will know the name, I forgot. But I think what's more effective and more likely is continuing to have the organic coalescing of that first island chain, the cooperation between Philippines and Japan recently delimiting their territorial waters. That was not the direction of the U.S. I don't think it was. That's in their own interest. And Xi Jinping's expansionism is what will keep these countries together. Yeah.
Okay, with that, let's wrap up this session. Let's give a big applause for our wonderful panel. Thank you. Thank you very much for your audience, for staying so late. Thank you. Okay, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Thanks for all our panelists. Wow, what a great day. All the topics, all the insightful discussion. And now it's my honor to invite back Dr. Xiaoshu Shuanglin, the Executive Director of Consilium Institute, and Mr. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Christina, for all the hard work today. And just as a closing quick, I really appreciate all our sponsors and also Ming Chang, come over. Yeah, so Hello Taiwan is one of the major sponsors for the forum today. And I also want to say thank you to Global Service Center for quitting CCP. And they've been very, very supportive as well. And I really appreciate Ming also coming from New York. Well, New York, Buckley.
Well, thank you, John.
To DC for this rally.
Well, Hello Taiwan, we'll just be glad to be able to partner with Consortium Institute to do this very informative panel discussion. Hopefully, we can, through all our experts, to tell a story that the CCP threat is real. And we need to be mindful of that. And hopefully that we will have able to, through discussion like this, craft a policy that better address the current threat of CCP, because they're evolving. They are very shrewd. They know how to adjust based on what U.S. policy and all global policies that the requirements are. And we need to find a way to counter all that. And again, thank you, Sean, for this opportunity to be partner with Consortium Institute to do this very wonderful panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And one last word is actually echoing what Professor Ming just said. It will be very difficult to unite so many parties together, from political science perspective. But maybe CCP will push us together, because CCP always the driving force, uniting the righteous force in the world. All right. Thank you very much. And we hope next year we can host another forum. And we wish that we can still unite many of the experts. I really appreciate Tom, Grant, Professor Ding, and actually Director Huang from Taiwan Culture Center. And so we really appreciate everyone's participation, and thank you, everyone. And we thank you for NTD TV's live streaming all day long. And if anybody missing some of the section, please check on the NTD and Epoch Times website, as well as Ganjin World. We'll have the whole 6 sections streamed. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
And also want to say thank you to all the volunteers. I forgot about Catherine's, Annie's, Christina's right here. Yeah, and then also Cassie, Annie, so many people helping, and Lena here checking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us today, and thanks for your time, your engagement, your commitment. And now it concludes the Chinese Freedom and U.S. Taiwan Security Forum 2026. And have a safe trip, and see you next year.